In early 2022, the flood came through Lismore. Elizabeth lodged her claim within a week, and the water went down in days. But the fight over the repairs, that took 3 years. She said afterwards that dealing with the insurer was worse than the flood itself. And she wasn't alone. It became the costliest flood in Australian history. It produced more than 240,000 claims, and across them, claim after claim came down to a label. Was the water flood, which was excluded, or storm, which was covered? The same street and the same water could get opposite answers. The word decided, not the loss. And here's the thing. When the regulator looked at how those claims were handled, it didn't find villains. What it found was far more ordinary than that. Insurers who weren't talking to their customers, teams that didn't have enough people, files that nobody was really watching, ordinary machinery under extraordinary load. And that's the breakdown you get in a highly siloed organisation. Because systems end up mirroring the org charts that build them. There's a name for that, and it's called Conway's Law. And a moment of pressure like that flood is exactly when an organisation needs to work as a team of teams. And it's exactly when the silos hold instead. So where did people turn? Well, more than 2,000 of those disputes ended up with the Financial Complaints Ombudsman. That was 4 times the record for any weather event before it. And the biggest complaint wasn't even the decision, it was the delay and the silence. This is a story about that machinery. Because it isn't only floods. In health insurance, the same kind of label, a code, a classification, decides what care a member gets. And the industry is automating that system, fast. So the question underneath is a human one. When the claims are decided at scale, who does a person turn to? I've told the machine decision story before, in 1.2 seconds. This one is about what we build instead. It's called FairClaim. Insurers make millions of claims decisions, and they're routine for the business, but life-shaping for the person waiting on one. And the sector is racing to hand them to machines. In a 2025 survey, 84% of US health insurers said they were using AI in some form, including for things like prior authorisation. And Australia's insurers are following. Now, the trouble with that is structural. The more a business automates, the fewer humans a member can actually reach. And the industry wants to automate the person too. And think about who gets hurt when that goes wrong. The people most likely to be wrongly declined are the sick, the buried in bills, and the frightened. Precisely the people with the least power to contest a machine, and the least likely to even try. This isn't hypothetical, and it didn't need AI. Bupa, one of Australia's largest health insurers, admitted misleading thousands of members over 5 years, telling them they were not entitled to benefits when they were. And in December 2025, the federal court ordered $35 million in penalties, agreed by consent. And the mechanism was a label they called mixed coverage. Part of a claim was covered and part of it wasn't, so the whole claim was rejected. And hundreds of those claims were processed automatically when they needed a human review. So the classification decided, not the member's entitlement. So the answer starts from one sentence. The machine reads, a person decides. FairClaim Copilot is a proposal for a health insurer. Call it Averton Health. It stands in for any of them. And the Copilot sits inside Averton's existing claims workflow in 4 moves. First, it reads. One AI pulls the facts from the claim, the policy, the clinical notes, and drafts a recommendation citing the exact clauses. And a second AI checks that draft against the evidence. Second, it does the arithmetic, because coverage, limits, and codes are rules, not judgment. So the clean cases clear automatically. Third is the pivot, and honestly, it's the whole design. Picture this. A claim comes in and the rules say no. Before that no can ever be issued, the Copilot rereads the entire case, and buried in the file, it finds the reason. A legitimate claim that was simply miscoded. It was a code, not a condition. So it corrects it, notes the fix to the provider, and the claim is paid. Instead of a sick person being bounced into a dispute they may never lodge. And what it cannot resolve, a human decides. And fourth, it explains. It tells the member and their doctor, in plain terms, what happened and where something is missing, exactly what's needed. And the business case rides on that vignette, because the member FairClaim keeps is the member a wrongful decline would have lost. The rework, the wrongful declines, and the complaints. That's the leakage it closes. So the assessor reviews instead of rekeying, and the member never fights a machine alone. Because people accept what they can understand. What they resist is a black box. Though we should be honest about that too. An explanation can be fluent and still be after the fact. Why does the second look matter so much? Because the sector has shown us what happens without one. CommInsure rejected heart attack claims against medical definitions that were years out of date. A payout that should have been $100,000 could come back as 10. An executive admitted at the Royal Commission that the definitions were kept for commercial considerations. And here's the sharpest part. Using those out-of-date definitions wasn't even against the law. The regulator investigated and no penalty ever followed for it. The definition was updated only after the story broke, and it was backdated only after the Ombudsman pushed. Nobody reread the file against reality. That is the gap the second look exists to close. And that's the machine's whole job description. The machine reads, a person decides. Here's the part that makes this a proposal you could actually trust. The design is stress tested before anything gets built. 4 risks bite hardest, and for each one, you pair the risk with a control and the control with its honest limit. Start with oversight. Because the whole design rests on the human staying real, a tired assessor beside a confident machine defers under volume. Researchers call it the toothless human in the loop. So you give oversight teeth. You give the assessor a real minimum of time so the file actually gets opened. And you use a risk score so the hard cases always land with a person. But there's a limit, because oversight decays if the time and the standing behind it are not protected. Then there's fairness. Train a copilot on a decade of assessor notes and it inherits a decade of habits. A US health algorithm used cost as a proxy for need and underserved black patients. Fixing that one proxy lifted their share flagged for care from 18% to 46%. So you test on thousands of anonymised historical cases first. And any proxy is a hypothesis to prove, routed to a person. And again there's a limit, because testing only catches the bias we think to look for. Then there's the data. This sector has already been burned, losing 9.7 million people's records in a single breach back in 2022. A copilot trained on years of health data is a honeypot. So you hold less, and you tokenise identities into a vault, which means the model works on references and never on names. And here's the subtle part. That matters even though the model runs in-house. Because you don't hand identifiable data to another system just because that system lives inside your own walls. And it's broader than personal information, because the same rule covers anything the organisation has decided is secret or private, and that includes its own intellectual property. If it's been ruled off limits for a model, then it stays off limits, even for your own model. Because that's exactly how sensitive data ends up scattered across an organisation. And catching that is precisely what the stages are for. And still, every control lowers exposure without erasing it. And accountability. In claims, a wrong no can decide someone's care. So, the model decided cannot be the answer. A named senior owner signs the decisions and certifies the controls are real. And the limit here is the hardest one, because a fine is not a person. Accountability only bites when a real name carries real consequence. And the law is catching up, everywhere at once. Here at home, from December 2026, the Privacy Act will make insurers disclose significant automated decisions, and the prudential standards already bind them. Over in Europe, this kind of risk assessment is now classed as high risk. And in the United States, Medicare has said an algorithm alone cannot be the basis to deny care. So you build to the strictest standard, by choice, because compliance is a moving target. Now, every one of these controls shrinks the danger. None removes it. And saying so is the point. None of this gets bolted on afterwards. It runs on an operating model called RAISE, 9 stages that take a system from first idea to daily life. And it doesn't start with the technology, it starts with people. The first stage is distributed knowledge, and it's education first. Because you start where the knowledge already is. You build real AI literacy across the organization. You run pilots at the operational level, and you demo what works back to the organization and its leaders. And you surface the shadow AI because it's already in the building, and you don't ban it, you acquire it first. There's a name for that in the research, and it's called absorptive capacity. An organization can only take in new knowledge if it already knows enough to receive it. So the education isn't a nicety, it's what makes everything after it land. Then comes protect, and it draws the red lines before anything gets built. Now, a lot of people will tell you that governance and ethics should be the very first step. But that's exactly what absorptive capacity warns you about, because you cannot set the rules for something you do not yet understand. The education comes first, so the governance actually means something. So you name what you will not allow, you settle the data rules we just talked about, and you anchor the whole thing to the standards and the law. And then problem discovery keeps you honest about why you are building at all, because this has to be a problem seeking a solution and never AI seeking a problem. You define what success would look like, you ask whether AI is even the right tool, and you set the budget box before you fall in love with the answer. Then comes challenge, and this is the stage people misunderstand. Challenge is not QA, and it is not regression testing, and it is not a performance run. It is adversarial, and it works in both directions. You are actively trying to make the model fail, and you are jailbreaking your own system. And at the same time, you are interrogating the answers it gets right. Because a right answer for the wrong reason is just a bias that has not surfaced yet. Every proxy gets treated as a hypothesis you have to prove. And you shake the bias out across thousands of historical cases before a single member is ever touched. Then that gate stays, and it is reusable, so every future change has to pass it again. Risk tier turns all of that into routing. A score decides what clears automatically and what a human must own, with real time and real standing behind them. And then you deliver it the way Slice says to, in thin slices, because you fight the urge to go big. You put one real slice into production, a happy path someone can actually use, and you explore and prototype first, to flush out the risks and the dependencies. You draw down the budget slice by slice, and you build with cross-functional squads, which puts Conway's law to work for you instead of against you. And nothing ships without passing challenge. It's how you start small, prove the quick wins, and grow. And once it's live, Guard watches it. Every single day it runs. It learns the normal range, it alerts on drift, and it logs every override. And nothing the system learns ever triggers a silent change, because a person decides what changes. Then the accountable human puts a real name on the outcome, because without one, it's just theatre. A named senior owner signs the decisions, certifies the controls are real, and the AI did it is never a defence. And people are told before they have to ask, with a plain report of what the AI did, including every would-be decliner overturned. And sustain is the reminder that go live is the start, and not the finish. A model starts decaying the day you ship it, so you retrain on a cadence, you watch the meter, and every upgrade reruns the whole gauntlet, because you never hot swap. So it's not a product, it's a practice. So what do the stakes look like when this goes wrong at scale? In the United States, United Health's NH Predict model allegedly produced denials that were reversed on appeal about 90% of the time. Just sit with that number for a second. Now, that case is still before the courts, but the number is why never auto-deny is a rule, not a preference, because monitoring narrows failure. It never proves the model safe on a case it has not seen. And Australia's own warning already has a name. Robodebt wasn't AI. It was an algorithm, a flawed assumption, and the human check removed. And its quieter failures were quieter still. A later update removed that human check, and the staff hearing the distressed calls were walled off from the people who built it. So FairClaim never removes the human step by stealth, and frontline staff keep a protected line to the builders. So here's the wager. Fairness and the bottom line are not enemies. The efficiency here isn't cutting people, it's closing leakage and the slow, mundane work. It improves a task, not a job. And you get what you measure. So there is never a target to decline claims. Cost cutting cannot become claim cutting. And because it runs mostly in-house, the cost stays inside the budget the business already sets. More automation is coming, in claims and across everything, and pretending otherwise helps no one. So this is an olive branch to the person on the other end. Automate the routine, and in return, be more transparent, keep the member informed, and keep one avenue open that never closes. And that avenue is a person. Because wrong at scale erodes the very trust this sector's own breach already damaged. And trust, once lost, is slow to rebuild. So you start small, you prove the quick wins, and then you grow. Because the measure of the machine was never the machine. It's whether Elizabeth, 3 years in, ever had a person she could reach. The machine reads, a person decides. And everything you've seen is sourced. The rulings, the regulators, the research. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe.